Welcome to the FediHost podcast, a show covering the challenges of building a new internet. I'm your FediHost host, Paige, and with me, as always, is our CTO, Victor.
Hello.
Hi, Victor. So, Victor, what did you think of the first two podcasts?
You know, I rewatched them and I thought they were all right. Surprisingly, my favorite one, which was this second one we did, has a lot less views than the first one, which is sad. That's not a good sign.
I mean, I have some feedback for you today based on the previous two episodes.
Okay.
My God, both these microphones sounded so terrible.
Both?
It's close to unlistenable as a thing that I've ever produced has been. Because
Okay.
your microphone was super, super compressed and had a lot of noise reduction on it or something. And then mine was clipping in order to crank it up so that you could hear it.
Well, now we have two normal microphones that shouldn't be doing any weird sounds.
No, and we haven't had any issues with audio today at all.
No, I can't hear you. No, I think it's my side. 0.
So today, it's a happy new year. It is extremely cold in my house because I am on the local utility energy saving plan.
Yeah, we're doing that here too. It was pretty cold this morning.
Once the energy saving period ended, I turned on the oven and
The
opened
oven.
the door to heat the house up.
The poor man's fireplace.
Yeah, the reserve. Anyway, middle of winter and the start of 2025. And so today I was thinking it would be good to talk about groups of people that we hope can migrate or set up accounts on Fediverse in 2025.
It always rubbed me the wrong way when you go on a serious organization website and all they have is Twitter, and then you're like, why? Why are you on Twitter still?
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a good goal. I think that's happening a little bit. I saw that Chicago's transit authority left Twitter the other day, for example. And that's a good example of a thing where transit authorities have gotten very used to Twitter being a good place to tell people about disruptions to trains and that sort of thing, And it was pretty much the only time that I would actually use Twitter.
Yeah.
People would talk about Twitter being oh, it's good to have the news as soon as it breaks and all that. I don't need to know 15 minutes before anyone else that the prime minister's resigned or whatever.
Yeah.
My life's not going to change. It's not really worth it for the kind of hyper addictive social media experience. But for sure, I used to use it for the transit thing. You go to take the metro and then you're like, is something wrong?
The STM had it. Every line had their own Twitter account. And they were pretty good about updating it.
I remember going to the status page, the Twitter status page for one of the lines and being like, this hasn't been updated for months, and thinking, oh, curse you, transit provider, oh, there's crap at comms, sort of thing. And it took me a moment to kind of realize oh, I'm not logged in. Oh, it's because of this closed version of Twitter.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I was like, if I worked for the STM, I'd be bailing on this right now. This is making us look bad.
The going on a Twitter page when you're not logged in and seeing old posts from maybe 6 months ago, and you're like, wait, they're definitely posting. There's something going on here. It's not the page that's dead. It's just Twitter doing this thing where they don't want bots to scrape the website or something, and just making it really hard for anybody who wants to look at data. Yeah, they're making it hard for them. And they're pushing their API, which, I mean, the price for the API is outrageous. It's basically telling people they don't want you to use the API.
We kind of looked into it for various kind of products. We're like, oh, could we create a automatic Twitter poster and some sort of interface? And as soon as we hit that API, we're like, the answer is no. There's a guy in Montreal who I met who goes by the name Heliomass on Mastodon, and he created, a great set of French and English STM bots. So all in one place, you can see what the status is of transit in Montreal. And it's great. It's that's what Twitter used to have. They built the tools that the transit agencies should have built themselves on
Hmm.
Mastodon, but whatever. These agencies, these universities, these governments, all that sort of stuff, they've gotten so used to having a Facebook account or an Instagram account that I don't think they can see how peculiar it will look to people in the future
Hmm.
that the prime minister's email address is justin@hotmail.com.
Yeah.
Why would you put public information on a thing that you don't own when we now have the tools to get away from that?
Like you're not setting up in anybody's backyard. You don't have to adhere to like Twitter's weird rules or Facebook's weird rules. Like you get to do your own thing. I think it's a point you raised in this campaign we're working on, but it's basically not making a political stance by being on a platform. It's just like this thing is as neutral as it can get.
It's as neutral as having your own website.
Yeah.
It's being able to permanently have a home for official government communications. And then anyone can create things to pipe that out, like an API, to things that aren't on ActivityPub because it is open.
Yeah.
So it's just a really good, like, original source of information to the public. And really crazy how few of these sorts of institutional entities have jumped on that opportunity. I mean, I'm sure that lots of them will go over and set up a Blue Sky account, but they're repeating the same mistake, again.
Yeah, it's just what they're used to. It's, oh, we used to be on Twitter, now we're making Blue Sky account. It's easy to, it makes sense in your mind where it's like, oh, well, we're just moving to the next thing, and it works like the old thing basically. Where this new thing, I think you kind of have to sell them on the idea of this brand new thing.
I think in communications, you often get told to go to the audience. And I think it's probably hard for them to understand that by publishing something on ActivityPub, they go to all audiences everywhere.
Yeah.
Like communications staff are probably quite used to the idea that you write out an official detailed press release and you put it on your website. And then you would put it on Twitter and on Facebook. You would say, this is what we're doing, a short summary, read more here, link back to website. It's that thing. You used to have your original website information source, and this is now your original social media information source
Yeah.
that everything descends from. I think it's like a personality type thing, They're not techies. It's just not their jam, I guess.
I think it's just kind of like telling people about the Fediverse in general. They're like, well, why would I use that if I can use Blue Sky and there's more people on it? Like, I don't think people really think about the underlying, I don't know, technology and kind of the message around using certain technology. Like, people don't really think about that. They just want to look at funny cat pictures.
Well, there's a multitude of reasons. I guess it's just like, yeah, you're like, this is totally neutral. And basically what you're doing right now is saying, like, we don't need a website. We've got our Twitter page. And it's like, maybe if you were like, I don't know, a cooking Instagram influencer or something like that, but you are the government, you or you're a university.
That's an interesting thing to talk about because the government of Canada some years ago like passed this thing where the government has to use open source technology when it's available. I think there could be an argument to be made that their social media should be built on open source technology also, which would be the Fediverse.
But I mean, the government doesn't use uses like Windows and stuff, right?
I would need to look it up, but it's essentially use open source technology where you can. And
yeah, I mean, it's probably kind of like a within reason. We want to use TikTok because there's blah million users and there's like 100 and whatever. It'd be like, oh, that would sell it, right? There's no reason not to have it. You could get the government over to Mastodon and set up using a tool that reposts everywhere pretty quickly. So yeah, it doesn't require massive infrastructure of bureaucracy. They're probably using post scheduling tools that can attach to Mastodon and Blue Sky and everything already.
We're not the first ones to bring that point up. I think it's a discussion that's been going on for a little while. At least last year, I've seen some big Fediverse people talk about it. I think Evan might have talked about it also.
The other group that I think about a lot are journalists. I mean, it's just kind of like my crew. They were on Twitter. I don't think that they will migrate to Mastodon ever.
So okay, so journalists. I've got another group in mind that you're very well positioned to talk about, but we can talk about it after.
Journalists formed the kind of core of Twitter. That was their play space. They're a strange group of people, and I think they just value the being able to chat with other people network effect so highly.
Mm-hmm.
And they enjoyed, I think, being in an exclusive little club. When you hear journalists talk about Twitter in the old days, it's very bizarre. I've got such fond memories of this website, which I never enjoyed using personally, but they treated it like it was a cigar bar, honestly. So I think they're going to be quite happy over on migrating over to Blue Sky. So yeah, not journalists. And I think journalists one day, but it would take, I think, the governments and institutions going on to Mastodon first, and then for some reason deciding just not to do Blue Sky, for the journalists who feed on that information to go over there to comment on it. So maybe journalists 2030.
So do you think journalists will go where the information is, or do you think the information will go where the journalists are?
I think the journalists being on Blue Sky will always make it necessary for government and institutional communications departments to post over on Blue Sky. I guess I would hope that it's a repost instead of an original, or at the very least, it's just a duplicate. Because yeah, who knows what's going to happen to Blue Sky?
There's been articles going on around about how Blue Sky is speed running Twitter, where every kind of step in the Blue Sky history is just condensing what how Twitter happened. So now they're kind of already in a kind of a phase where people are complaining a little bit about moderation and stuff like that, which yeah, it's just Twitter way faster.
Well, I think it's just how startups work these days. When Twitter was first founded, things just moved slower. The cycles are very tight, especially when there's capital involved. And they benefited from the big exodus,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's quite likely to be around for ages and then bridged with ActivityPub. I kind of wonder if one day it'll just be kind of irrelevant what underlying protocol.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I think that would be the best outcome, is just use whatever you want and just everything works together.
Which is what ended up happening over the course of the 90s with various things that were separated. Did you know that in Canada you didn't used to be able to text people on different carriers?
Really? I didn't know that.
I think what happens is if everyone else is participating in the open protocol, it becomes quite hard to have a closed one.
Mm-hmm.
Because you put your users at this disadvantage. Oh, you can't text anyone unless they're on this thing. So I think there's that force kind of balancing it out. But you said there was another group of people that you thought might happen in 2025?
Yes. I wanted to have your opinion on YouTubers and where you think they're going to go, where they should go. Do you still consider yourself a YouTuber, Paige?
I consider myself to be a video journalist, advocacy journalist, I guess is the technical term.
Okay.
I think YouTubers are a flavor. Most YouTubers, especially if they're on Twitter, and the ones that I know, are a flavor of journalist.
Okay.
Citizen journalists sort of thing.
They're
so I
video
think they're going to behave
journalists.
The same. Yeah, there's things in the news and they cover it. and the ones that I know try to follow principles that are similar to kind of a scrappy journalistic outlet. So I think that they will go over to Blue Sky
Yeah.
from Twitter, the liberal ones probably. I don't anticipate in 2025 us seeing a lot of like individual movement to Mastodon unless Blue Sky goes horribly wrong.
Which is definitely a possibility. I know like Blue Sky must have a very costly infrastructure to run. That is my tech my tech side talking. Like I see the way they're going. I've read things, and I like it. It must be really, really expensive. I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen when their venture capital money runs out. What are they gonna do to keep going? Is it gonna piss off a lot of people? I don't think that's gonna be the case. Like I think they're gonna be smart about it, but I think it's a good thing to keep in mind because they're funding all the costs of running their infrastructure. It has the potential to be decentralized and having multiple kind of entities helping pay for it. But right now they're the only ones, so I think they need to figure something out.
I mean, I don't imagine that their costs are like that great compared to like, say like Google hosting videos is expensive, like serving up trillions of hours of videos.
But Google sells ads. Like they have ways to monetize.
I don't think that Blue Sky is like expensive to run, considering what it is. Like Twitter's main cost is not its infrastructure, it's the staffing.
Yeah.
Well, you have like hundreds of thousands of dollars, on programmers, and you have hundreds of them,
Right.
coding. I think staffing costs are the main costs for most of these social media businesses. And I think that because they've picked up a lot of users, they won't have any issue raising more rounds of capital. But what that capital is going to push for, I mean, I think I've never read the enshittification hypothesis, but that capital at some point wants a return.
Yeah.
And then when trying to solve that problem, that's when you run into trouble. That's when you do go, okay, well, we're going to have to put ads in. So Blue Sky's like, okay, we'll put ads in. And then third-party developers who have access to Blue Sky go, well, we won't show the ads.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, oh, well, we'll need to charge for that or block it,
Or we're gonna force it. Like you're gonna be forced to get fed ads. Like it's gonna be we're gonna build it in the protocol or something like that.
So I think they're probably gonna say pay for accounts. They'll shake that tree and see if enough money falls out.
Well, that's their initial plan. They want to have like a premium.
So then you end up with this problem of like the average user experience on Blue Sky isn't as good.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice for the internet to be not free and ad supported, with people paying what in the end, I think if you're paying a reasonable price of things, wouldn't be that much, Like we know what it costs to say host Mastodon instance.
Yeah.
You could for, $10 a year, maybe, have your social media presence hosted somewhere that isn't going to show you ads.
Mm-hmm.
If you split the costs amongst all the users, we pay a much higher price than $10 for the internet the way it is right now, right? So, yeah, it'd be good to see people kind of move across to that mindset. It's just I think Blue Sky is going to charge a lot more than $1 a month for the privilege.
And it's like, well, if you're gonna end up paying like $5 a month for Blue Sky, why don't you host your own server of like Mastodon or whatever for the same price, and then you have like total control and you're not on this platform, and you can still participate in it from your like Fediverse account.
However, I guess people will say, well, there's more people on Blue Sky, it's easier to use, all that sort of stuff. The Fediverse needs to get its head out of its ass.
Yeah.
It is nice to make things that are easy to use for people, We should, and I think people are working on this, and we should try as hard as possible to make easy, good things that will allow normal people to use the Fediverse and not be confused, find what they want. I hope that in 5 years, I don't have to like lecture someone on how federation means so this consequence and that consequence, because people don't care. So I guess that would be my prediction in 2025 is kind of more of the same, institutions being added, but until the Fediverse creates the tools to make it really easy to use and find people and talk with them, I think that we're probably not going to see mass adoption beyond, Threads users jumping on this year and that sort of thing.
The good news about that is that we're like collectively the Fediverse, I think, is moving towards trying to fix those issues. Like there's the Fedi Discovery project going on. There's I don't remember what they called it, but they want to have like nicer specs or API for instances to kind of plug in third-party tools that can help moderate for you, that can generate feeds. Blue Sky kind of built that in right off the bat. They made some trade-offs to get there, and now the Fediverse kind of didn't want to compromise on like, we need to be very decentralized. And then we focused on making sure that it was decentralized and everybody could talk to each other, and it worked properly. And now we're trying to fix the issues that the decentralization brings in.
I agree, and I really applaud those efforts of the people who are trying to make stuff easier. You can still have decentralized search and decentralized tools that you, on your instance, can hook into to make life easier for people. The idea of ease is not mutually exclusive. The Fediverse is totally capable and full of really talented people who I think are going to be able to solve this. But yeah, it'll take a few years, that's for sure. Probably won't happen in 2025, although I'm excited to see what people start working on.